This is why your product won't sell. Now, do you ever wonder, what is it that really causes someone to buy our product? What are we really doing right, and what could we be doing wrong? We're going to discover by the end of this episode what we actually have to do to make sure every time we sell our product, we have success. Let's jump in. Now, I want you to keep in mind there's all kinds of products. And when I say products, I'm really thinking about products and services. There's all kinds of things that we sell. So you can see I have a lot of things here. I'm going to talk about these throughout the episode, but here's the key. I want to walk you through exactly what we need to be thinking about no matter what we're selling. I don't care if it's something very small or something as large as a house. There's some things that we always want to do. And by the end of this episode, you're going to master the 4 key things, 4 key tips I want to give you that you can actually use to maximize the higher conversion rate when it's time for you to sell. Let's start to break these 4 things down. All right, it's time to break down selling tip number 1. Now, we're going to head to the whiteboard here, and I want you to notice this. The first tip that is so important, right, is to actually search for the problem. Now, when you think about searching for the problem, I want you to kind of think about a bullseye, right? You see something where you've got many different layers, and we want to get all the way down there in the center to understand the real cause or the reason that someone actually is really there to buy. Now, the more that we tap into this and the more that we can, through question, really find out what this is, it becomes a secret weapon that we can use throughout the selling process. Because I know the real reason that you're here, the real reason that you want to spend money today, this is something that allows me to stay connected to the very thing that will cause you to buy. See, we only buy to solve a problem. We only exchange money because there's something of value that is greater than the money that we have. So when we actually understand the way wealth is created, there's a direct alignment with the level of problem that we solve. Someone who solves the problem of me having a place to live somewhere will get paid more than someone who solves the problem of me putting my items at the grocery store into a bag. This is why people have different levels of pay for the level of problem that they can actually solve. So when we understand the direct relationship between problem and profits, then it causes us in any experience where we're selling to try to probe, to ask questions about what the problem may be, to try to find out the real reason, the thing that they wish was better that this actual product or service is going to solve. So this is what we want to keep in mind, always searching for that problem through question so that we can actually hone in on the very thing that's going to make them buy in the end. Now, let's go back and look at some examples where here in my facility, we're going to go back to my wellness center where we have a wellness bar, and we're going to look at some products and actually go into some examples. Let's go deeper. All right, now you've known and heard about number 1, which is search for the problem. Now, when we're selling, we want to be able to search for the problem because that is the real reason people are buying. They're buying to solve some level of a problem. Now, when you think about the items that we have here, we've got many different things, and each one of these solves a different problem. So I want you to think about for a minute, I have a microphone here. And if someone wanted to buy a microphone, I would first want to actually, ask them more questions about what is the real problem? Is the problem the level of sound? Is it the clarity of the sound? Where are they using this at? Is it in an event center? Is it at a church? Where's this actually happening at, right? If I was looking at some slippers here, right? I want to really search for the problem again. Like, do they already have slippers that aren't working? Have they not had slippers before? Are they having an issue keeping their feet warm? Do they not like having their feet bare on the ground? So each one of these I could break down and we could get into actually searching for the problem. And when we look at these items, then it allows us to deepen something that's going to happen later. There's something that goes on when we are in front of a product and we start to talk about the very thing that is giving you the reason why you need a solution as you're in the process of getting the solution. And that's what this is all about. Now, let's go to tip number 2. All right, now it's time for number 2, and this is one of the most critical ones. We have to move our product out of the way, whatever it is. Put the product right here, put it here, whatever it is. Move it out of the way. Why? Because the product is not really what they're here to buy. See, there is something deeper than the product. The product is a package of value. It's a container of value. There's something in there that allows me to get to an outcome that I want. And that leads us to number 2. Here on the whiteboard, we want to make sure we sell the outcome and not the product itself. See, when we focus on the product itself, we make a critical mistake. We can focus on selling the actual pieces that are involved. So it has this many features, it has this many, kilowatts of energy on this, and then, you can hit this button and it does that. That's not why they buy. Then we can focus on the person. You should buy this, because of, this individual or this person, right? That is actually selling it to you, like because they got it. That's not the reason people buy. You can try to sell it based on the process. And when you think about the process and you go all into how this thing works and what it does, and then it does this and it moves here and it does this and it does that, that is not the reason that people buy. And all of this, right, a lot of times is related to how people sell a product. What we want to focus on is the payoff. And when we think about the payoff, this is the same as saying the outcome. So what is the end result of me having this product? So if I am selling something that is actually going to help me in my business, and it's going to help me do marketing better, I don't want to talk about the phases of marketing. I don't want to talk about all of the different spreadsheets I can use to organize my data around my customer for marketing. I want to talk about what it's going to be like to make more money because of my marketing, to be able to have less stress because I have more money in the bank, to finally get those sales coming through that I've struggled to actually get them to actually convert. I want to be able to talk about having enough leads to not worry about who to sell to if they're here because they really have a problem of getting more leads. These are the decisions we make when we're speaking, when we're talking, that determine if we really will get someone to increase the desire in themselves to buy or to increase the resistance for them to say no. And this is what we're trying to overcome. And it all starts with focusing really heavily on the outcome. Let's go back for some more examples. All right, as you now know, it is time to sell the outcome. So when you think about some of the items I have here, so think about this. I've got some iced tea, right? And when you think about the outcome, so it's not so much the ingredients and all the details about this tea and how it was made that actually is the reason that I will buy this. It is the outcome that will actually cause me to want this. And this is what you want to tap into. This is what we mean by actually moving the product out of the way, because I'm not really selling the product. I'm selling the outcome that comes after the product. So after I drink this, I'm going to feel refreshed. I'm going to feel hydrated maybe. If this is really good and has any health benefits, I want to talk about the things that it does to my body as a result. If I was dealing with this candle, for example, I would think about the outcome of this. If I've searched for the problem well, and I know that they have a problem with aroma and they don't like certain scents and smells that are in their home, or maybe they have kids, maybe they have pets, maybe they got something that happens after people cook in the evening, whatever it is. But I want to tap into that. And I want to actually, continue to dig into that pain a little bit and talk about how the outcome of this scent, this smell that will be in the house, and how that smell will make them feel. Being able to tap into the emotional experience of having the aroma that you want in the house and really beginning to tap into that feeling that you get, because people always buy with emotion and later justify it with logic. This is why this is so important. We have to stick to the outcome that the product will actually get. Move that product out of the way and focus on what comes after they use it. Let's go to tip number 3. All right, it's time for tip number 3. And when we think about tip number 3, this has to do with something that is so critical, and the statement is still true. Facts tell, but stories sell. Let's look at this on the whiteboard here. We want to actually get good at actually being able to say a story. So we want to be able to say a story. Now, when you think about how to connect a story, right? We make a connection between that and the product, right? And if we get even better, we connect it to the outcome that they want. Right? And this can keep going, like connected to the problem. All of these are related, but the story is what begins to bring about an emotion. Think about the power of a story. Now, I want you to think about, how long have we seen people like Superman, right? Or people like the Incredible Hulk? Or how many times have we seen just so many characters in Star Wars, right? Think about all the things that we see with all of the X-Men characters, or what about little stories that have went around like Little Red Robin Hood, or think about, like the Seven Dwarfs, or there's just so many different things. Why are we still talking about these things? It's because these things have impacted our brain because there are stories that have actually caused us to resonate into our memory, and we remember the journey. We remember what these characters went through. We actually have built a relationship with something that is not even real because a story is so powerful. So when we think about how stories impact the brain, the more that I can tell a story related to what the person is going to buy, it puts them in a different emotional energy around the actual step they're going to take next. See, this is why whatever we're dealing with, we want to think about, the more I have stories related to the products that I sell, I have like this arsenal, and it's almost like I pull an arrow out of my quiver and I'm ready to shoot that arrow at whatever thing they need to hear, that story that makes them actually think, so that now that it increases that desire to buy. Remember, there's a battle over increasing desire to buy. Now, let me go back to the whiteboard for a minute. So when you think about, let's say we have a desire meter, right? And let's say that we actually have to cross this threshold to actually get to the point where people buy. So in this whole process that we're going over today, what we're essentially doing is we're increasing this desire with every word and statement that we make, right? And we want to cross over that red line where the buying desire has got so great, I can't stop them from buying the product because I've created the desire in them to buy what they already want. Now, one of the things that can do this and create such a trajectory upwards toward that buying desire is the power of the right story at the right time. So if you want to be good at selling your product, you have to get better at knowing stories that are related to the outcomes associated with that product. This is where the real secret sauce begins to come in, and you will see your sales and conversions go through the roof. Let's go back for some more examples. All right, now you know the key that we must say a story. Now, when we think about a story has the ability to actually connect with the story that's in someone's mind and then build a bridge to the story you want to be in their mind. A story has the ability to grab, and because of that, when you think about this, peppermint surface cleaner, right? Now, if I was selling this, it's one thing for me to tap into understanding the problem and understanding exactly the outcome that they want, but to tell a story, to have a story lined up for this, if I was able to say, I remember a time where I was dealing with a client that had a child, and that child always liked to play on the surface at the countertop in the kitchen. And just to understand that when they sprayed with this actual cleaner, the child was so moved they kept putting their head down on the counter to smell the peppermint, and they just wouldn't put their head up, because they just loved the way it smelled. It was so refreshing, and yet the parent was so happy because there was nothing on that counter that could hurt the child, because this cleanser is one of the best cleansers that you could actually use. That little story brings some context, right? As many stories as I have, doesn't matter if it's funny, if it's, direct, if it's indirect, but those stories actually deepens the reason and the desire within me that the decision that I want to make may be the best decision. Or, take these, little, holders here that allow you to protect your surfaces if you have a drink or what have you. Now, we know at the end of the day, this stops things from getting on a surface when you put them down. But, if I had a story, right, of, I actually, know someone that was able to, use this, and it wasn't so much the fact that it kept water off of the surface, but it had such an elegant feel. And, did you know that actually one of the biggest deals that were ever made, with respect to certain specific business deals was made at a cafe using this distinct design, or this was at a home where someone actually did thus and so. If there's a story you know about that is tied to how this was used in a moment, it doesn't have anything to do with the product. The product is just protecting stuff from getting on the surface. But when I tell a story related to this, if this was used somewhere, if it was used at a time, if it was used in a moment where something actually took place, or if I create a story in which I imagine how this could be used at a moment that was important to my family because I found out that that is something important to the person I'm talking to. These are the things that we're learning about when we search for the problem, and when we focus on the outcome, we build a story around it that actually begins to cause them to want to take the next step. Now it's time to learn about tip number 4. All right, now it's time for the final tip, which is tip number 4. And this is critical because this is where we get the money. Let the money fall, let the money come. We need it everywhere. This is why we're doing this whole thing. So when you think about the money, I want you to think about this for a minute, that we must do this simple step that is so critical. And this is step number 4, send the way to pay. So I want you to consider this. Now, on my whiteboard here, I have all this laid out for you. When you think about sending the way to pay, all of this is so crucial because if you make the mistake of getting too request-oriented, notice it doesn't say request the payment, request the money, request them to give you, the payment. No, we want to focus on the way to pay as if they are already walking that way. So if I'm focusing on the way to pay, I've already created a discussion around the positive experience of them getting the thing that they want. So when I start to really make it clear, it's time, for us to actually make sure you walk out of here with that. Let me meet you up at the front table to get this all wrung out for you. Or are you going to be using a credit card, right? All these things are so crucial. So this is why we want to understand that way. When we get them in motion, get them in the way, then you're going to see them already starting to take their money out without even realizing, because they're already seeing themselves having the thing, and now the only thing in their way is making sure that they follow you the right way to pay. Let's look at this as another example. Now, you heard about, tip number 4, which is to send the way to pay. Now, when we think about these items here, if I was actually, getting someone to buy these slippers, I focused on the right things. I found, what the problem was. I tapped into that problem. I showed them the outcome of them having warm feet, walking around the house with such a cushion. It makes them feel like they're floating on air. I was able to really talk about the outcome of how they're going to feel when they use these nice slippers, right? And then I was able actually to tell a story about, the power of, having your feet warm when, it's a cold night, and a time that I did that and spent some time with my daughter or my son to connect with them, right? And now when I actually am at the moment of truth, the time to exchange money for that product, what I want to do with these slippers is I want to be able to say, which credit card would you be using? Right? And we can go to the front desk. I can get that all taken care of. Would you like me to go ahead and get this all bagged up to take care of for you? I have everything at the desk there. You're going to be using a credit card. So this is the point of me actually having buying energy, where I'm creating a buying energy, because we want them to realize that now it is time for me to give them, in exchange for their money, the value that they came here for. Now, always remember this. Convincing has to do with me getting someone to do something for my purposes. But when we're actually selling, we're getting them to do something for their purposes, and I'm giving them the value that they want. That's why good selling is not icky. It's not bad, because, we don't want the used car salesman, right? We don't want the person who's trying to force you to do something that you don't want to do. We want someone who's actually just more of like a value doctor, and they're, helping you discover the value and then giving you the way to get the thing that you came here for, providing the medicine for your sickness, right? And so if I focus on saying, hey, here's these slippers, do you think you might want these? Right? I already have some doubt in that question. Or, is this something you think you might want, right? And I don't sound confident. Versus if I have an energy where I'm sending them the way to pay, like I'm already in motion, like I'm not requesting even, I'm more saying, here's the way to pay. I would like to get these all backed up for you. I can meet you at the desk. Are you gonna be using a credit card for those? I can tell you really like them. Let me get it all ready for you. And this is how you create an energy that is ready to pay. Now it's time for some final thoughts. Well, I want you to understand, you now know the 4 key selling tips, and let's sum these up real quickly. So on my whiteboard, you can see here, we want to make sure that we search for the problem. We get real clear on that problem. We sell the outcome that they really want. Don't focus on the wrong thing, because it's what's happening behind the product, after they get it, the result of the product that we're really selling. We want to say a story to tap into their emotion, to make sure this is not just another thing that we're trying to get them to buy, but a story that compels them with buying desire and buying energy. And then we want to send the way to pay, not focusing on a request, but more getting them in the motion of action that has already taken place. If you use these 4 things, not only will you give a better customer experience to those who actually are coming to you because they want to give you money, you will also see that your sales are beginning to go up and your conversion rates are getting higher, because you're learning how to actually sell what is most important and to focus on the things that actually causes someone to take action. I hope you will use this to keep being the CEO of your business as we try to be the CEO of everything in our life, our business, our wealth. The ultimate freedom is what we're all striving for, because it's all about being the CEO where we charge, we expand, and we overcome until we get the ultimate freedom. Until next time, get out there and make some sales. There's nothing in front of you now but benefit and success.